I watched this film after not having seen it for probably close to 20 years. I was struck by how much more interesting it seemed to me. That every time I saw it, I felt like it wasn't moving. It was feeling like real slow and sluggish to me. And maybe I just knew too much of what was coming and what was going to happen. But this time there were a lot of surprises to me when I was watching it again. A lot of things that I forgot. I was actually in school during Combat Check. I was going for my master's at the time, so I was still a student. But I had been working professionally, playing as a musician. Buddy, my brother and the director, was the drummer in the band. I was playing bass. In the process of trying to get the bands happening, we started to make music videos in the early days. So that's how Buddy transitioned into becoming a director. When we got to making this film, it was really just a continuation of what we had been doing for at least 10 years together. Initially, we thought it was going to be a short. In fact, it began, I think, as a student project. It was done very cheaply, ultimately, but still, at the time, whatever monies were needed to buy materials, you know, Bud had to work, and we were working as musicians, so we'd work while get what we needed and go back out and do some more shooting. In fact, that was part of the reason why I suggested that Bud give me a try. When Buddy was really ready to start shooting, he had already done some screen tests for a number of people, and none of them really felt right. I felt that he was really about to go with someone that he probably shouldn't have, and so I said, you know, just out of desperation, let me screen test for it, and he did, and he thought that I was right for it. So that was really the beginning and the end for me, because I hadn't really done any acting before that, and I haven't done any since. I don't think I ever really looked at a script. Usually it was just pages that Bud would hand me while we were shooting, and you know, basically, I didn't have an overall sense of the arc of the film or where the film was heading until we were pretty much shooting on those particular days. I'm kind of semi-OCD. I'm very compulsive about clean and germs and stuff like that, and yet most of the swamp scenes that we shot, what in reality are the Fresh Kills landfill areas. So of course it's polluted waters and quite disgusting. So there was an irony in that, and I think Buddy got a certain kick out of making me go through that. The scenes of the hut where Frankie's encaged in this little wooden hut, that hut was built by Buddy in the backyard of my mother's house. We had these explosions going off, and the truck driver happened to be driving by at the same time. So he pulled over and kind of started yelling out. He was kind of upset, and he looked in and he saw the yard and he saw the hut and saw the smoke coming out, and he yelled something like, "This is in Vietnam, you know," and got back in his truck and left. I don't know how my mom put up with it, you know. She endured a lot from us during the making of that film. I mean, having to have the yard like that and having us climb up on her roof and do explosions in the backyard. I'm sure she wasn't, you know, the favored neighbor in the neighborhood, but she endured it. There was never enough blood for Buddy. We literally had gallons. In fact, there was so much blood in the house that we shot as Frankie's apartment. When we cleaned up the whole place to turn it back over to the landlord, and he had approved, it was clean, it was fine, he was happy with it. Like a month or so later, he was trying to sell the place, and he brought some prospective buyers in. There was so much blood under the floors that it was starting to come back up. So these people were walking through a house seeing blood all over the floors. I'm perhaps much more mainstream than Buddy is. Buddy really loves to push the envelope. The shooting of the baby was a line that I felt really uncomfortable crossing. And I thought that, you know, this really just is, I understand the character's gone, you know, his brain is fried, but an audience still has to sit through this. Bud would always do things that I would never dare do. That I would draw a line in the sand, but would always step over that.
I've now become God.
Holy shit.
It was always, you know, something to laugh about, and we were always just getting a kick out of the fact that things sometimes looked as good as they did. I'm still amazed at how well that last gunshot scene came out. the dramatic ending where Frankie pulls the trigger on himself. And Buddy's wife, who actually, at the time, she was on the set during the final gunshot to the head, and she's a nurse, a registered nurse. So she was a little concerned because when I pulled the trigger and the squib went off, I threw myself against the wall and then slid down. And apparently it was convincing enough that she thought I was really hurt. And she kept trying to get me to say something to her. She kept saying, "Rick, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I knew that she was worried, and seriously worried, and at the same time I knew if I told her I was okay, I was going to blow the shot. The gunshot goes off, and the blood just comes out, and you see little bits of the squid on the wall, which looks like it could be flesh matter too. It's just, I don't think Buddy even imagined that it could have come out that good, so we probably just got lucky with a lot of that stuff. As bad as those scenes are, and as bad as the final gunshot is, I think the scene that most people really get grossed out by, when you ask them, you know, what was the most gross part of this film, they'll all almost always agree it was drinking the sour milk. So, which I have some, if you want. I've been storing it out on the cupboard for a few weeks. I guess no takers?
No, I think I'm all right.